Welcome Taurus to your in-depth monthly horoscope for November 2023 for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you some standout details to look out for. Please stay with me. I will explore in much greater detail all the ins and outs particularly relevant to your sign. Now, your ruling planet is Venus, and Venus is in a potentially magical opposition with Neptune through the first week of this month. But it's one of those magical connections that can also be very deceptive, so I need to unpick that for you. Also, there's a lineup, a stellar lineup, literally in the part of your situation to do with how you relate to others. And that takes you into this month in a really powerful way. But the new moon in your opposite sign of Scorpio on the 13th brings all this really up to the boil, particularly as Mars, the planet of passion, in its home sign of Scorpio, combines with this new moon. What an incredibly potent event, and that's going to echo forwards for the next 4 weeks with very, very interesting possibilities for all sorts of relationships for you. With year 2024 speeding towards us, if you order your year 2024 personal horoscope forecast now, I'll prepare the rest of year 2023 for you, free of charge. But also in my special package of 30% off, I'll prepare for you your character analysis report, your life roadmap. This will give you searing insights to understand the patterns that are played out in your life so far, but helping you to get a much more intimate understanding of how to work with these in a really adroit way. Please see the link beneath this video for more information. So Taurus, as you come into November, the word that comes up for me to describe your situation in a way is polarity. But polarities don't necessarily have to be where we're ending up on either end of the couch not speaking. Polarities can be where opposites attract, for example, and can create a balance. So the energy in your sign comes from Jupiter and Uranus, both retrograde, but the energy in your opposite sign, the 7th house, which is where you connect to others, so the 1st house is about your individual needs and focus. The 7th house, where you link up with others, the Sun's there, and it's in an opposition with Jupiter in the first week, and this can be a lucky polarity. It can also be a polarity that goes wrong because we just automatically believe, because Jupiter's in the mix, that it must absolutely prove lucky, and then when it doesn't, we end up feeling crestfallen. So as long as we can handle the potential over-the-topness that this particular aspect can create, it can give us a sense of confidence and a little bit of a push to step outside our comfort zone. But also Mercury in the sign of Scorpio, which is very much about deep diving, understanding the more psychological dimension, investigating, not necessarily taking at face value what people say, but understanding what they really mean, the subtext. But for you, it's still the 7th house. And Mercury in the 7th house is great because it's a bit more detached. It takes it a bit less personally if people see things in different ways. But that is in an opposition with Uranus. Now, in a very positive way, that can create a spark, and it can also create speed, and there could be a connection that happens therefore very quickly. But also, because Mercury can be about how we think and our ideas, it could mean, because Uranus is very rebellious, that we could encounter someone that we instantly express how we feel, which then does make it feel that we can't agree. So there is a tension with that particular aspect. However, the other polarity that occurs in week 1 is between your ruler Venus in your 5th house, the most romantic part of your situation for the first 7 days of this month, but in an opposition with Neptune. Now, Neptune for you is in a part of your situation that's very much to do with your very highest hopes, your future plans, your friendships, your network, where you have a more spiritual inclination. And when Venus and Neptune are in opposition, it can create a real magic. You know, if we encounter someone, it can have almost an otherworldly vibe to it, which can absolutely be captivating. So if you do meet somebody and there is something very mystical about them and very alluring and something that you're really drawn towards, it can be quite beautiful. It's certainly a great time if you're in a relationship to go and watch a movie, take in some beautiful music, or get out in nature where you can really please your senses. But equally, it can mean that we encounter someone who isn't quite what we think or hope they might be. So it can create distortion, Neptune, and because our hopes are involved in it, and it can be a very spiritual. Remember, Venus is actually exalted in the sign of Pisces. We can get caught up in really hoping that something is really going to be absolutely the top of our experiences, and then we can be crushed because actually someone's not who we thought they were, and it could end up to be something that's very hard to hold and not very tangible, very gassy, which of course Neptune can be. But on the 8th, Venus actually relocates, but before that, on the 4th, Saturn ends a retrograde. And Saturn has been retracing its steps since the middle of June. And in, ironically, the same part of your situation as Neptune. If you have encountered some big disappointments around people in your circle, your social life has seemed stymied, you haven't had so much physical and emotional vitality since that time, it really wouldn't be a surprise, because there's been a lot of connections between Saturn and Neptune in your 11th house and the energy that's been passing through the sign of Virgo. But on the 8th, Venus actually makes its way into the sign of Libra, which it governs. And Venus is charming here. It's all about being very delicate in the way we interact. It's about trying to find harmony. But for you, it's house 6. And this could be, in a way, about trying to find ways that you can work with other people, whether it's colleagues, the folks at home, the people you share with, or in a romantic context, by, you know, just being thoughtful in a practical way, which nothing wrong with that at all. But Venus certainly can thrive in this location. But on the 10th, Mercury moves out of your sector of relating, and for you, dives deep into the sign of Sagittarius. Now, ironically, Mercury is debilitated in Sagittarius, but it's also debilitated for the next 3 days because it clashes with Saturn. So it's possible that if in a friendship situation or group dynamic, if someone is rather challenging to you in some way, you could see the dynamics of this and other people could be blithely unaware of it. Just be aware that that is possible. But also, there is on the 13th a glorious new moon for your sign in particular, because then the new moon in Scorpio, which is very much about relationships, is also supercharged by the passionate vibe of Mars. But the key here is that Mars is the ruling planet traditionally of the sign of Scorpio. So this really works well. And if you are wanting to develop a relationship with someone, whether you have someone in mind or not, you're going to be much more driven and motivated to try to make that happen in the following month. So that could see you more active on social media. It could see you join in some kind of hobby group, whether it's some kind of club or meet-up situation, or perhaps even going online. If there is somebody that you're already drawn to, and it is a very sexual connection, I feel that things could seriously heat up between you and they in the following 4 weeks, which can be very exciting indeed. But from the 18th through to the 22nd, the Sun in Scorpio starts to angle very constructively to Pluto, the modern higher ruler of Scorpio, in the sign of Capricorn, which for you is the 9th house. This is to do with the expansion of knowledge that's been so profound for you since 2008. But it may be that you can forge an accord with someone. This doesn't have to just be romantically. It may be in a business alliance. It may be a contract you're going to sign. But something very profound can happen across that group of days. But the 22nd also sees later in the day the sun make its way into the sign of Sagittarius. For you, again, house 8. So strangely, as the sun makes its way from Scorpio into Sagittarius, it takes on a kind of scorpionic feel for your sign in particular. But of course, the sign of Sagittarius can be very much about freedom, exploring, independence, can be about contractual matters too. So for the 8th house for you, if you are looking to improve your financial situation, this may see you trying something new or different, or learning some new skills. It's just that the sun, followed by Mars on the 24th moving into Sagittarius, are both checked by Saturn. So again, we get this situation where if there's something that you want to evolve and feel very passionate about, but someone around you is inhibiting things, that could be, say for example, it's jealousy in a circle of friends, or there's some games, or someone's up to no good, being a bit crafty and sneaky. That could be something that really could be quite painful for you at this point in the month. But there's no doubt about it, in the last week of this month, if there is somebody that you're drawn to and you are getting on, and there is a big romantic a component to this, it can get hot. In fact, it can't really get any hotter than this, to be honest. But just be aware that from the 25th to the 30th, Mercury, also in this 8th house, then goes into square with Neptune. Remember when Mercury moved on the 10th, it was challenged by Saturn. Now it's challenged by the dreamy, drifting energies of Neptune. So I feel that what this is about, really, this evolution from the relationship part of the month to this deep, passionate, psychological area, the 8th house, linking with your 11th house, means that if you're pulled towards something, if you're drawn towards something, a bit like the devil card, if you like, in tarot, something that we really want that money, or we really fancy that person, we're feeling really, really mischievous because, you know, we're really plotting about how we could go about getting that outcome, that won't necessarily work for you, I feel, because Saturn and Neptune in your 11th house are asking you to try to play it clean, to try to do it in a way that fits your heart, that makes you feel at ease with yourself. Also, there is on the 27th a full moon. The full moon is in Gemini, which is quick, flexible, mutable, but for you, house 2. And maybe there is going to be the need to balance the books between the ins and outgoings in your situation. We've all been caught up with this broadly in the last year and a half or so. But this particular full moon is T-squared by Saturn. So if there is, for example, a friend in your circle who has different values to you, or is a bit mean, or is inclined to use your goodwill a little bit, that could really cause some rancor in the following 2 weeks. You're wanting people to be fair, but because the Sun and Mars are so close together as this month comes to a close, if you do need to be more ruthless, whether it's around a business matter, whether it's around a romantic relationship, or around a friendship, that 11th house energy is asking you not to forego the more idealistic side of your nature in order to get a prize which may feel a bit empty if you win, but in some ways you go against what you feel it represents a sense of fairness. So complex stuff at the end of this month, but you can definitely get what you want if you put your mind to it, whether it is around a business venture, whether it is around maybe some more speculative strands, maybe it is around someone you really are drawn to in your friendship circle, but there could be some kind of side effect or unintended consequence which may have some implications for some while afterwards. But in terms of your relating sector, interacting with other people, getting on the front foot, telling people what you want, but also understanding what they need from you, what a dynamic month this is, Taurus.